I never thought I was the kind of man who could be so calculating. Not until I heard my wife laughing at my expense in her parents' kitchen, her words slicing through 7 years of what I thought was love. He's not even good in bed, boring, broke, and bland. That's how my wife Lena described me to her family that night. The man who had worked 60-hour weeks for her dreams. The man who skipped vacations to fund her artistic breakthroughs. The man who paid for her unemployed brother to live in our home. That night changed everything, not with a bang, but with laughter at my expense. And while they laughed, I began to plot. Family dinners at the Michaels house always followed the same pattern. Lena's mother would overcook the meat, her father would drink too much wine, and her brother Max would show up late with some excuse about traffic or a networking opportunity that had kept him. I would smile politely through it all, playing the role of dutiful son-in-law, the reliable foundation upon which their daughter had built her life. That Sunday was no different on the surface. I sat through the usual interrogation about my work at the investment firm, why I hadn't been promoted yet, and whether we were finally ready to give them grandchildren. Lena fielded these questions expertly, explaining how we were focused on her art career right now, how close she was to breaking through, how her Instagram following had grown by 1,000 people that month alone. "Adam understands," she said, patting my hand with practiced affection. "He knows what we're building together." My phone buzzed in my pocket. Work, most likely. I excused myself to take the call in the hallway, a welcome reprieve from the stuffy dining room. It was indeed work. A client with a last-minute question about fund allocation. I handled it quickly, already dreading returning to the table. That's when I heard them in the kitchen, where Lena and her mother were supposedly getting dessert. Their voices carried through the partially open door. "Honestly, Mom, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," Lena was saying. "He's not even good in bed. Boring, broke, and bland. If it wasn't for his job, I'd have left him ages ago. Max pays more attention to me than he does, and he doesn't even pay rent." The room erupted in laughter. Her mother's voice chimed in next. "Well, you always did prefer the passionate types. I remember that trainer of yours making eyes at you last Christmas. What was his name again?" "Chris," her brother Max supplied, and I realized they were all in there, the entire family laughing at my expense. "Tanya's husband. Man, if she only knew." More laughter. I should have felt something. Rage, maybe. Humiliation. Instead, a cold calm settled over me. I took a deep breath, straightened my tie, and walked back into the kitchen like nothing had happened. "Dessert almost ready?" I asked with a practiced smile. Their faces betrayed nothing. No guilt, no shame, not even the decency to look uncomfortable at my presence. Lena simply handed me a plate of apple pie with a generous scoop of vanilla ice cream, my favorite, she always remembered that, and led the way back to the dining room. That night, as Lena slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't rage or beg or try to save what was clearly unsalvageable. No, I would simply disappear. But not before ensuring she understood the consequences of her betrayal. I didn't sleep that night. I plotted. The following month was my finest acting performance. I was attentive, loving, even spontaneous, qualities Lena had often complained I lacked. I brought her flowers on random weekdays, listened intently to her stories about gallery meetings and art supply shopping trips, and never once questioned why her studio sessions now regularly extended until 9 or 10 at night. "You seem different lately," she remarked one evening as we sat on the couch, my arm draped casually around her shoulders. "More present." "Just realized what's important," I replied, kissing her forehead. "You're important, Lena. Your happiness matters to me." She seemed pleased by this, nestling closer. "I've been thinking about getting that fitness watch I showed you. The one that tracks everything? My followers would love seeing my fitness journey alongside my art posts." "I think that's a great idea," I said, already calculating how such a device might serve my purposes. In fact, I might just surprise you. 3 days later, I presented her with the top-of-the-line model, complete with GPS tracking, heart rate monitoring, and automatic cloud syncing capabilities. She squealed with delight, wrapping her arms around my neck. "It even connects to our home cloud," I explained, helping her set it up. "So you won't lose any of your data if the watch breaks or gets lost." "You think of everything," she said, kissing me gratefully. "This is going to be perfect for tracking my runs with Chris." Chris, her personal trainer, Tanya's husband. I nodded encouragingly. "I'm glad you're focusing on your health. Maybe I should join you sometime." "Oh, these are specialized sessions," she replied quickly. "Besides, you hate running." "True enough," I conceded, watching as she immediately opened Instagram to share photos of her new gift. The perfect husband supporting his wife's wellness journey. If only her followers knew. The watch was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, I began methodically preparing for my exit. I worked remotely on Wednesdays and Fridays, days when Lena believed I was at the office and thus spent longer at the studio. While she was gone, I cataloged our assets, made copies of important documents, and slowly began transferring money from our joint account into an offshore account I'd established years ago for a wealthy client who had since passed away. The account had remained dormant, its existence known only to me and the bank's compliance officer who owed me a favor. $100 here, $500 there. Never enough to raise suspicions if Lena bothered to check our statements, which she rarely did. Money had always been my department, a responsibility she was happy to delegate while enjoying its benefits. Meanwhile, I tracked her movements through the fitness watch. The data confirmed what I already suspected. Her Tuesday and Thursday studio sessions were actually spent at Chris's house in the suburbs, conveniently scheduled when Tanya had her book club and yoga classes. Sometimes they met at motels, occasionally at our house when they thought I was working late. The timestamp data, matched with her phone's location history that synced to our shared cloud, created an irrefutable map of her infidelity. One evening, as we ate takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant, she casually mentioned a weekend retreat. "There's this amazing wellness spa upstate," she said, scrolling through photos on her phone. 3 days of massages, meditation, healthy food, just what I need to clear my head for my next collection. "Sounds perfect," I agreed. "When is it?" "Next weekend?" I know it's short notice, but a spot just opened up and my gallery manager knows the owner. "Of course you should go," I said, squeezing her hand. "I'll miss you, but you deserve the break." She looked almost disappointed by my easy acquiescence, perhaps expecting resistance that would justify her resentment. Instead, I offered to pay for the entire weekend, presenting her with a prepaid card so you don't have to worry about a thing. The amount on the card was carefully calculated, enough for her to enjoy her weekend, but not a penny more. By the time she discovered it wouldn't cover her return trip home, it would be too late. The final piece fell into place when a wealthy client expressed interest in purchasing a property in our neighborhood. Instead of referring him to a realtor, I offered him an off-market deal, our house. The property was solely in my name, a fact Lena had never questioned when we purchased it early in our marriage, before her artistic awakening made such practical concerns beneath her. "My wife and I are looking to downsize," I explained smoothly. "We'd prefer a quick, quiet sale with minimal disruption." The client was delighted by the opportunity to avoid a bidding war. The sale was arranged through a silent trust, keeping my name off any public records. The closing was scheduled for the Friday that Lena would leave for her spa retreat. With 2 days to go, I hired a moving company, paid in cash, to arrive Saturday morning. I told them my wife and I were separating amicably, and I needed to remove my belongings while she was away to make the transition easier for her. The sympathetic foreman assured me they would be discreet and efficient. Everything was in place. 7 years of marriage would be erased in a single weekend. The morning Lena left for her retreat, I kissed her goodbye at the door, her overnight bag slung over her shoulder, excitement brightening her features. 3 days of pure bliss, she sighed happily. No distractions, no responsibilities. You've earned it, I replied sincerely. Don't worry about a thing here. I've got it all under control. If she detected any double meaning in my words, she didn't show it. Her rideshare arrived, and she was gone with a final wave and blown kiss. I watched until the car disappeared around the corner, then immediately got to work. First, I drove to a shipping store and sent a carefully prepared package to Tanya's workplace, a boutique marketing firm where she was a senior account manager. Inside was a USB drive containing all the evidence I'd gathered: GPS data from Lena's fitness watch, timestamps showing her location history, photos she'd taken with Chris that had automatically uploaded to our cloud storage, and screenshots of text messages I'd secretly captured from her phone while she showered. I included a letter. Tanya, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. You deserved better. We both did. I don't know how long this has been going on or how deeply it runs, but the enclosed evidence speaks for itself. I wanted you to have this information before I'm gone. What you do with it is entirely your choice. Our spouses have betrayed us in the worst possible way. They've made fools of us, laughing behind our backs while we work to give them the lives they claim to want. I won't be confronting Lena. By the time you receive this, I will have already disappeared from her life. I'm not telling you what to do, but I thought you deserved to know the truth. Take care of yourself. Adam, next, I went to our bank and closed our joint checking and savings accounts, transferring the remaining balance to my new private account. I'd already moved most of our savings over the past month, but this final transaction completed the process. Lena's personal account, which held only a modest balance from selling a few paintings, I left untouched. I wasn't legally entitled to that money, and unlike her, I wasn't a thief. The house closing went smoothly. By 3 o'clock, I was no longer a homeowner, and a substantial sum had been deposited into my private account. I called Max, who was predictably sleeping off a hangover at 2 in the afternoon, and informed him that he had until Sunday evening to remove his belongings from the property. What? Why? He mumbled groggily. Did something happen? You could say that, I replied calmly. I've sold the house. The new owners take possession Monday morning. You sold the... Does Lena know about this? Lena will know everything soon enough. For now, I suggest you start packing. Anything left behind after Sunday will be disposed of. I hung up before he could respond, imagining his panic as he tried to reach his sister, who would be deep into her wellness experience by now, unreachable except for emergencies. And even then, the prepaid card I'd given her wouldn't cover any early departure fees. Saturday morning, the movers arrived. I had them pack only select items: my clothes, my books, my personal electronics, and a few sentimental items that predated my relationship with Lena. The furniture, kitchen items, decorative pieces Lena had so painstakingly selected all remained. They would be the new owner's problem come Monday. By Saturday afternoon, my possessions were safely transported to a sleek downtown apartment I'd leased the previous week, a modern one-bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city that Lena would have loved to paint. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent Saturday night and all of Sunday methodically erasing Lena from my life. I changed my phone number, email addresses, and all social media accounts. I informed my workplace of my new contact information, citing a personal situation that required discretion. My boss, who had always respected my privacy, asked no questions. I contacted all necessary entities: utility companies, subscription services, insurance providers. Anywhere Lena's name appeared alongside mine, I removed it. By Sunday evening, I had systematically untangled our lives. Then I waited. I didn't witness the aftermath firsthand, but pieces filtered back to me through mutual acquaintances and the inevitable social media storm. Tanya, it seemed, had chosen a spectacularly public venue for her confrontation. Rachel Wilson's baby shower on Sunday afternoon, attended by nearly every woman in their social circle. Lena, still blissfully unaware at her spa retreat, was the only notable absence. According to reports, Tanya arrived late, looking composed but determined. She waited until gift opening time, then stood up and apologized to Rachel for what she was about to do. Then she pulled out her phone and began a live Instagram stream on Lena's own art account, which she had access to as Lena's occasional social media manager. "I think Lena's followers deserve to know the real woman behind the brand," she reportedly said, before methodically displaying the evidence I'd provided. The GPS data, the timestamps, the photos. One witness described it as the most elegant evisceration she'd ever seen. No screaming, no name-calling, just cold, hard facts presented to an audience of shocked women who had, up until that moment, considered Lena a close friend and authentic creator. The stream lasted 17 minutes and was viewed by over 15,000 people before Instagram shut it down for policy violations. By then, screenshots had been captured and shared across multiple platforms. Lena's carefully cultivated image as a wholesome, spiritual artist dedicated to authentic living crumbled in real time. The gym where Chris worked as a personal trainer, already facing scrutiny over instructor-client relationships, immediately terminated his contract. The athleisure brand that had been considering Lena for a sponsorship deal quietly deleted all comments asking about her on their social media. Meanwhile, Tanya filed for divorce and an emergency restraining order, citing evidence of her husband's infidelity and concerns about his access to their children. The temporary order was granted pending a hearing. Lena, blissfully disconnected from the digital apocalypse, apparently tried to extend her stay at the spa when Sunday's revelations began reaching mutual friends who tried calling her. That's when she discovered the prepaid card was maxed out, with no additional funds available. According to the front desk clerk, who later shared the story on Reddit, a frantic woman had to call her brother to cover her ride home Sunday night, only to discover he had been evicted from their house and was sleeping in his car. By the time Lena arrived home late Sunday night, she found a house still containing most of her possessions, but legally no longer hers. Her joint bank accounts were empty. Her lover had been publicly exposed and legally separated from his children. Her brother was homeless, and her social media accounts, the platform for her artistic brand, were flooded with comments calling her a fraud, a hypocrite, and much worse. She tried calling me, of course, texting, emailing, reaching out through friends, but I had vanished as completely as if I'd never existed. I left no forwarding address, no contact information, no breadcrumbs to follow. The only message I sent came in the form of divorce papers delivered by courier the following week, the terms non-negotiable. She would retain any money in her personal accounts and her artwork, but nothing else. Given the circumstances and evidence I possessed, her lawyer apparently advised her to sign without contest. 6 months have passed since then. I've heard Lena moved back in with her parents, her art career in shambles, her social circle decimated. Chris apparently relocated to another state, his personal training career finished in our city. Max finally found employment at a car wash. Tanya sold their house and moved with her children to be closer to her parents. As for me, I'm sitting in my downtown apartment, watching the sun rise over the city skyline, coffee cup in hand. My new life is quieter, simpler in many ways. I still work at the same firm, though I've scaled back my hours. I've started taking those vacations I always postponed, traveling solo to places Lena never wanted to visit. Sometimes people ask if I'm angry, if I regret not confronting her directly, not giving her a chance to explain or apologize. But what would have been the point? Words were never Lena's problem. She had plenty of those, carefully chosen and expertly delivered. It was her actions that revealed the truth. I never raised my voice, never called her names, never even told her I knew about her betrayal. I simply left, methodically, thoroughly, irreversibly. The greatest revenge wasn't in what I took from her, the money, the house, the stability. It wasn't even in the public humiliation, though that was a consequence she brought upon herself. No, the greatest revenge was in never giving her the satisfaction of a confrontation, a dramatic scene where she could cast herself as misunderstood or repentant. I denied her the closure she needed to rewrite our story. In her version, I would have been the controlling husband, the boring partner she had outgrown, the man who couldn't handle her success or independence. My silence prevented that narrative. Instead, I left her with the unvarnished truth. She gambled everything on the belief that I was exactly what she described to her family that night: boring, bland, and easily manipulated. She never imagined I could orchestrate an exit so complete, so devastating in its quietness. Sometimes the most powerful statement is the one left unsaid. I didn't need to scream to make my departure felt. The empty space I left behind spoke volumes. I take another sip of my coffee, watching as the morning light transforms the city below. For the first time in 7 years, I'm finally living on my own terms. And while I can't say I'm happy, not yet, I am at peace. Some betrayals can never be forgiven. Some wounds never fully heal. But I've learned something valuable from this experience. Loyalty matters, not because others deserve it, but because it defines who we are. Lena showed me who she was that night in her parents' kitchen. And in the months that followed, I showed her who I am. A man of few words but decisive action. A man who doesn't need to raise his voice to be heard. A man who understands that sometimes the most devastating response to disrespect isn't confrontation, but absence. I finish my coffee and set the cup aside, ready to begin another day in this new life I've built. Outside, the city hums with possibility. I open the balcony door and step out into the morning air, breathing deeply. The view from here is better than I ever imagined. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.